Hello and welcome to Learn with Indrjeet. This is another video in the series of videos titled Building a To-Do Management System Application in .NET 8, which is the latest framework from Microsoft. In the previous video, we created a To-Do Groups controller in the Web API project and also learned a lot of things related to database connection, configuring the connection string in the app settings file, and adding services to the request pipeline in the program.cs file. So if you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch that first. In this video, we will be completing the to-do groups controller in terms of implementing the get by ID, the update and delete functions. Also, we'll try to cover the create range, update range and delete range functions. So let's get started. So here we are in Visual Studio To-Do Groups controller. Let's implement the get action and the others one by one. So let's replace this code with the code that I have on the clipboard. So this get method is very simple. It tries to get the view models list from the database. Then we are checking if the view models list is null or it has a count less than or equal to 0. Then we are returning a not found response using the API response builder that we created in one of the previous videos. If everything is okay, we are returning a okay response, right? So let's go ahead and test that. Here we are in Swagger test, and so we are having two to-do groups. One is task group 1 and other is task group 2. So let's go back to Visual Studio, stop the application and implement the next one, which is get the DTO by ID. So let's replace this code. So here we are receiving an ID and we are expecting a model DTO in return. So first we check for the ID. If it is less than or equal to 0, we return a bad request. Then we try to get the model DTO from the to-do groups service. If that model is null, then we need to return the not found response. Otherwise, we are returning the OK response. Okay, so save. Let's try that also. So in Swagger, let's try to get the model DTO with ID 1. Let's execute that. And here we have a 500 internal server error that is coming from to-do groups controller line number 40. Let's go there and see what is wrong. So this line is throwing an error. So while it is trying to get the model DTO, let's go to the implementation of this function. The shortcut for that is Control F12. Okay, so this is a list of models. Oh, we forgot to pass in the ID. That's it. Now it will be a model and the mapper will be able to map it to the DTO. Okay, save, close that, and let's restart. To restart, Control Shift F5 and the application will be restarted. Now in Swagger. Let's try get again, and let's do it for ID number 1. Execute, and it should come up with 200. Yes, now this time it fetched test group number 1 having ID 1. And let's do that for ID number 2. So here it is with ID number 2. Back to Visual Studio, stopping the application, and then now let's implement the update. So we named it edit. Let's change the name to update. That is a nicer name. So update. Before that, let me take you through the create method, where we are getting a model DTO. We are checking if it is null, we are returning a bad request. Then we are checking for model state errors if there are any, and if that is the case, we are returning a bad request with the errors, right? And so this get model state errors we created in one of the previous videos, that is a model state extension. Okay, so after that, if everything is okay, we are trying to create the DTO, checking if the DTO is null, then we are returning a bad request, otherwise we are returning a okay response. So now let's implement the update function. So let me replace this code with the code of the update function. We are receiving a ID and the model DTO. Then we are checking if the ID is less than or equal to 0, or the model is null, or the ID in the model is not matching with the ID in the parameter. Then we are returning a bad request. Otherwise, we are checking for the model state. If there are any errors in the model state, we are looping through them, creating a message, and then returning bad request. If all is okay, we are trying to update the model using the to-do group service update method. If the updated DTO is null, we are returning a bad request. Otherwise, we are returning okay. So let's test that also. Along with that, we'll be testing the create function also. So here in Swagger, let's try the create endpoint first and try to create another test group number 3. Fine, so let's execute that. Okay, so this test group 3 is created with ID number 4. That's okay. And let's now try to update this with ID number 4. We are having the ID number 4, and the test group name should be test group number 4, and in brackets let's add updated so that we can see the difference. So execute, and it returns a 200 okay, and see the name is updated as test group 4 updated. Right, now let's go ahead and implement the delete function, and using this delete function we are going to delete the last added to-do group. So let me replace the code. So we are accepting a integer ID. We are checking if the ID is less than 0, we are returning a bad request. Then we are trying to delete the model with that ID in the to-do group service. If rows affected is less than or equal to 0, then we are returning a bad request. Otherwise, we are returning okay response. Right, so let's restart the application, and test this for ID number 4. So here in Swagger, let's go ahead and delete the model with ID number 4. Execute. And yes, the record with ID number 4 deleted. So this way we have implemented the get by ID, the update and the delete function in this video. We still have to implement the same for create range, update range and delete range. I would recommend, if you are following along in your application that you are building along with me, please implement the create, update and delete range functions. I will show that code in the next video to you. Right? I hope you like the content of this video. If that is so, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Please let me know in comments what you like, what you learned through the videos. If you have any queries or questions, please ask them in the comments. Please share these videos in your groups, friend circles, so that they can benefit from it. Thank you for your time. Keep learning.